Hey there, everybody. I am Jeff. This is Tabletop Toolbox, and thanks for joining me here on episode number 64 of the weekly Ratchet. This episode, much like this intro, is going to be a bit short and sweet. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Weekly Ratchet. It's the evening here, about 9:30 in Richmond, Virginia. So I have myself here a partial glass of, this is Kung Fu Kittens by Precarious Brewing Project, which is out in Williamsburg, Virginia, down in historic Williamsburg. Beautiful place. They have a taco, almost like a taco stand inside. They've got a smash burger stand inside, tons of pinball machines, little arcade games, and some damn fine beer. Kung Fu Kittens being one of them. Hey, so this is going to be a short episode, like I've kind of teased at here already. And there's actually a couple reasons for that. I forgot to mention in episode number 63 that, well, this next week, my family and I will be over in Shenandoah, Virginia, at our cabin for the last time. While we are there, we will be signing the paperwork to go ahead and sell it, and it will be out of our possession, I believe it's Monday the 23rd. A tragic experience for us. I hate that it's happening. I don't want to talk about it, but we are at least going to go and enjoy our last time there. And I just kind of forgot to mention it. So I'm bringing a bunch of games. My sister's actually coming to visit me from now Colorado. She used to live in Maryland. My sister, maybe someday it'd be cool to kind of get her on camera. Maybe I'll have a couple pictures of her from gaming for the next Ratchet episode. But my sister and I are very, very different people. We're 11 years apart in age, and yet we have so many common interests. She loves Matchbox 20. She loves Rob Thomas, she loves Mariana's Trench, all the bands, all the music that I like. I started getting into gaming. She started getting into gaming. We're very different gamers, but she does love, checking out the stuff that, I bring to the table. So looking forward to playing some games with her. She has never gotten to see the cabin, despite the fact that she lived nearby. So we're very, very glad that she'll get to see it before it's gone. Anyway, so there's that. The good news is, if there can be any good news in all of that, is that I have actually been a little busy beaver. There's a lot of video coming out this week. By the time you see this, my wife and I will have a video about gaming for couples out. We actually just snapped the thumbnail here a few minutes ago. The editing's all done. So by the time you see this, that video will be out. Also, my Deep Shelf review will be landing this week. I don't exactly know what day I'm going to hit for that to be scheduled, but it is done, ready to go, already uploaded by the time I'm filming this. Also, the other day, I had a video come out on the Dice Tower. I was teasing this one for a bit, but my review of The Last Command did land there on the channel. I had a ton of fun and spent a ton of time editing that video. Do please go check that out and support friend of the channel, Ty McDonald, and The Last Command. Anyways, this segment has already been longer than most of the rest of this video will be. I'm going to go ahead and talk about one game that has come in. I'm not going to bother with all the little music interludes, but this is one that I actually chatted about a couple episodes ago. This is Beasts and Diplomacy. This is the AI art game that I chatted about a couple of episodes ago. All the art assets on here are AI. You can kind of tell with the sort of the sheen of this dragon, but I've glanced through some of the cards. The art direction is a little interesting. It's got a lot of that heavy border illustrations like the game of Borderlands, the video game of Borderlands. There's a name for that art style. I apologize, I don't know what it is, but everything kind of has these heavy borders. But it does look pretty decent so far. So I've only got this game for a couple of weeks. It is a card drafting game, heavy fantasy theme, which isn't really my thing, but I do kind of like the card systems and such that I've chatted with the designer about. It looks neat, and I'm going to give it a fair shake and see how it plays. I'm hoping to check this out this week. That is it. The only game that's coming this past week. Let me go ahead and kick off Question of the Week. All right, last week, in sort of the theme of big games that I talked about in episode number 63, especially Twilight Imperium 4th Edition, I asked you to tell me about what some of your big games were, whether it's big in complexity, big in scale, big in popularity, or just create some big events for you and your friends. And I did get some good responses. So at first was Teshra, who said his big game is Star Trek Captain's Chair, which is similar to the games of Imperium, which I mentioned in the last episode. He said that since they normally play it too, they came up with a co-op version of this game using a bot, which is available out on BoardGameGeek.com. That's pretty cool. I I know of folks who have done things like that, kind of create AI versions or create even just add-ons for a game. I can't wrap my head around that. So that's really, really neat. I certainly respect that. Might be something I get a chance to check out. I actually did get out Captain's Chair. You know that the cards in Captain's Chair and Imperium are a different size, and the sleeves for Imperium do not fit Captain's Chair? Not happy about that. Found that out the hard way. Anyways, hoping I can get that game back to the table. Since I played Imperium a couple times, I'm hoping I can kind of, revisit Captain's Chair and maybe not struggle so hard to get back into it. Anyways, that is pretty neat. Speaking of Star Trek, Yukon Zach said that his big game is Star Trek Frontiers, that this reskin of Mage Knight is more approachable for him because of the theme, and that it is a lot of fun to play. Man, I love seeing me some Star Trek here on the channel. I do have Frontiers as well. Actually, that was in my very first solo video, which has something like 20,000 views today. I have not played it in a long time. I have only ever played it solo, but it's got that really neat kind of deck building slash like a leveling up kind of system. And yeah, you made the comment about the rules and such. I'm not looking forward to trying to crack that rule book. I don't know if I'm ever going to play that game again, but it's hard to find, so I'm certainly glad I have that one. Weston said he recently experienced Anachrony in its big box variant with the Fractures of Time expansion, and he loved it. Anachrony is a neat game. I played it just a couple of times. I did ultimately pass it on to someone else. It just, it was a little too abstract for me, and I just didn't find that the whole time traveling thing really was necessary. You need to do it, but I would have just rather have some more intricate ways of getting resources, I guess. I don't know. Neat game. Do like the presentation of it, just not one that I kept around. Eli Kurtz said it's a difficult decision to pick, but they chose Shadows of Brimstone, as it's a game that they have a ton of great memories with. I have never heard of that game, but that's not surprising. A ton of games I haven't heard of. Definitely sounds like kind of a dungeon crawling kind of a game. I'll have to check that one out. Penny said her favorite big game experience is Dune War for Arrakis, that it takes up a ton of space and takes her and her husband all day to play because they take their time, but they have so much fun regardless. I have not played the newest Dune. The first Imperium didn't do anything for me, but I do need to probably go back and revisit this. Just being a little bit more of an experienced gamer, I might be able to wrap my head around it this time. C.R. Pohl mentioned the designer's edition of Small World, which is over $2,000 on the secondhand market and weighs about 55 pounds. And Jeremy Brooks mentioned Return to Dark Tower as his big event game, that he plays it any chance he gets as long as he has 4 or less players. Yeah, something about Return to Dark Tower intimidates me. And I think it's just kind of like the whole skull, sort of macabre theme. I've not played it. I've seen it. Looks neat. One of those things, if I ever get a chance, man, I need to check that one out. Lastly, Rentless said for him, it's Pandemic Legacy Season 2, that the game itself isn't even that great, but the experience his group got to have with it was awesome. Another one that I have not played, Pandemic was a game we got very early on, just original base Pandemic, and I think I had the Roman version, if that's what it was. And just, I don't know, never really clicked with those. I've never gotten into any of the legacy ones. But I know what you mean, those games that just kind of like, this game's not great, but man, we're having a lot of fun with it. And that's just really, really cool. For me, man, as far as a big game goes, I don't know. I didn't even think about an answer to this one. For me, it's probably some of the Lacerda, type games. I can tell you that a game that I would still love to check out that I know is big and is huge and is sitting on my shelf just collecting dust is High Frontier for All. That thing has 4 rule books in it. Each one's 30 pages. And I've heard that it's just a phenomenal game, but I've just never gotten to even do much more than lift the lid on it and just see everything in there. Put the lid back on the shelf. But that is the big game that I'm waiting to get to, and I hope I don't have to wait too much longer. Anyways, that is it for Question of the Week. Let me go ahead and tell you about one game that I played last week. I'm going to try and make this the shortest game review that possibly ever done here on the channel. Daniel came over after, of course, the weekend of TI4. I didn't really expect to see anyone over here for gaming, and Of course, as we've been kind of getting ready for this trip and all the editing I've been doing, I just haven't really gotten to play anything. But we did manage to sneak a get-together, and we played Voidfall. Because after these past couple of weeks, we've done a lot of the Deep Shelf game, which is just an interesting puzzle game, and you'll see when that review comes out. I actually compared a little bit to Voidfall. And then, of course, TI4. We almost kind of wanted to go back to a game that was heavy, big, hard, but that we were familiar with. We actually had to do we did real quick kind of breeze through the rules again, just make sure we were familiar with the process, the setup, a couple of things I'd forgotten. Still took us forever to set that game up. But I'll tell you, we both had a rough game of Voidfall. I wanted to make sure I played a new faction. There's one faction in that game that I think is too powerful, and I really, really like them for that fact. I can do so much with them. My record high score with them is 371 points. And in this past week, I only managed about 254. And, with a different faction, but I played very much the same way. I did the same thing I always do in that game. I try to expand as quickly as I can. On my very first turn, I attacked the neighboring sector of the AI Voidborn faction. I didn't attack Daniel. I had a chance to attack Daniel. I thought about doing it, but literally mathing out the points, it was more points if I just sort of turtled and worked on a couple of my agenda cards in my last turn. It was kind of weird. It's like, attacking a player actually was not going to do as much for me as if I just built 2 ships, which I thought was kind of weird. And Daniel had a tough time with this one too. He was kind of hard on himself a little bit at the end of the game because he just felt like he hadn't done that well. Now he scored 209 points. It's nothing to really, be upset with. In fact, we were really, really neck and neck through the entire game, and usually we're pretty far apart in score on that game. Our tightest score was 4 points, so we were, well within sort of our usual range in this game. But I don't know. He kind of struggled with it. I kind of struggled with it. We kind of sat there afterwards, kind of lamenting, like, man, why was this so difficult for us? When we've played it so many times. It was my 9th play of Voidfall. It was so nice to get back to something that, like I said, it's big, it's expansive, but we were fairly comfortable with it. But, still one of those games that you kind of get done and you're like, I just don't really know that I like that game as much as everyone else seems to like that game. Anyways, that was Voidfall. All right, so the question for next week, I'm going to kind of, sort of revisit that experience and that thought process. As Daniel and I were talking about, playing that game and playing some of the heavy games and even TI4, just kind of rehashing some of the stuff that we played lately. And there were some, again, some sort of lamenting over just plays that didn't really go well or experiences that didn't go well. So I'm kind of curious, what is, or do you have a board gaming regret? Whether it's a game that you played that just didn't really click with you, maybe just a bad experience that, you kind of felt like maybe you had a hand in or just didn't go the way you wanted it to, and maybe you kind of wish that you weren't there. This doesn't have to be a real depressing theme, but I'm just kind of curious if you've got, a board gaming memory that you kind of wish you didn't have. So that will be the question for next week. I did forget one other thing, even at the beginning of this episode. Next weekend, I am going to be briefly at the Origins Game Fair, I think it's called, in Columbus, Ohio. Actually, Ty McDonald of the Last Command game asked if I'd be around. He will be there. I'm looking forward to kind of linking up with him and just kind of hanging out for a little bit, maybe getting another play-in of the Last Command. So I will be back from that very, very late next Sunday. There will be a Ratchet next week at some point. It might be a midweek episode because I'll have hopefully a lot of games to chat about. So keep an eye out for that. If you're going to Origins, let me know. Certainly reach out. Hopefully I can bump into some folks and just sort of say hey. Other than that, folks, that is it for episode number 64. Sorry that this one's a little short and sweet, but there will be a lot more to talk about here again soon, and I'm looking forward to it and so much more. So I'll see you later, folks. Cheers.